Hi everybody, and welcome to this video. The first where I'll be providing a voiceover. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, but please let me know in the comments below. In this video, I'll be restoring a mahogany fold-out tea table that I picked up for £15 from a local flea market. Initially, I thought that it was a reproduction, but the more I worked on it, the more I came to think that it was original. I gave everything a good clean down with a cleaning spray and some warm water. It was whilst I was cleaning the drawer that I noticed that the bottom of it was made of solid wood, not ply, and that the dovetails were hand cut, with the layout marks still visible. The back of the drawer was very bent and difficult to get out, but judging by the annual rings, it had some serious age to it, unlike modern furniture. I did some tests to see what the table had been finished with previously, and came to the conclusion that it was a varnish, so there was no easy way to repair it. I decided to strip it and refinish using a wax oil and a beeswax polish. As you can see, I applied paint stripper to the table, and surprisingly, the varnish came off without much of a struggle using a stripping knife and some steel wool. When applying the stripper, it's important not to brush it out like paint. It's better to stipple and push it about with the brush to push it well into the surface. Those curls of varnish are always fascinating to watch as they roll across the tabletop. Once most of the varnish had been removed, I used white spirit and some wire wool to get the last of it off and to neutralise the stripper. If you're wondering why I stripped the drawer with the handle still attached, the answer is simple. I couldn't get it off. If you're enjoying the video, please consider a like and subscribe. It helps the channel get noticed and will be much appreciated. The shop apprentice was set to work cleaning the casters, but I think I may need to get him some smaller gloves in future. Right. The bottom of the legs were badly damaged and full of holes from where previous repairs had been done. I decided that the best solution was to use a polyurethane glue that would expand as it cured and hopefully fill all the holes. The tabletop was a little discoloured in places, so I hand sanded it to even it out, taking care to always sand along the grain. I sanded everything smooth, ready for the finish, and then made a big mistake. I thought that the tabletop looked a little pale compared to the legs, so I added a coat of Georgian mahogany spirit stain. In my eagerness to progress, I applied the stain without thinning it, resulting in a much redder top than I had intended. At this point, it may be worth pointing out that I am red-green colourblind, and I drove my wife round the bend, constantly asking her if the colour was getting better or worse. One advantage of a spirit-based stain is that it can be removed to a degree with methylated spirits. So I set about undoing all my previous work in an attempt to remove some of the redness. Although it worked to a degree, I was still unhappy with the colour difference. So then I had to ask myself, so how do you get rid of the red? If you remember back to your school art class, you should have learned about the colour wheel. The colour wheel has 3 primary colours. That's yellow, blue and red, making a triangle. If you then mix those colours together, you get 3 more colours. Those are green, purple and orange. Those 6 colours together make up the colour wheel. Now, one thing they may not have taught you at school is that if you take any 2 opposite colours and mix them, you get brown. Now that's where I need to be. So I went ahead and mixed 1 part green stain with 5 parts of meths, thinking it was best to err on the side of caution before I stained the whole thing green. I then gave the tabletop a couple of thin coats until I was happy with the brown that I was creating. Once the green stain was completely dry, I applied a thin coat of Gilboy's wax oil to the top and frame. And once that was dry, I flipped open the top leaf and applied a coat to the main tabletop. Although I did my best to keep the coat thin, it still took 48 hours before it was dry enough for me to apply the finishing wax. I chose Gilboy's antique gold wax for the table and applied it with a pad of 40 steel wool. The steel wool helps to get the polish into the surface and create a depth to the shine. After leaving the wax for about 25 minutes, it was dry, so I set about buffing it, which is always one of the most rewarding parts of any restoration job.